It's going to be a simple and easy guide today. This video, however, will contain spoilers for a lot of Monster Hunter Stories 3. I wouldn't watch if you're only on the second area or are sensitive about these things. Calamity Elder dragons are 4 incredibly difficult fights that you'll run into during your time in Monster Hunter Stories 3. They're vastly more powerful, more tanky, and more challenging than anything you'll face in your time throughout the game, in lieu of anything like, say, a tower or a challenge mode or what have you. Now that I've finished my playthrough, thank you Capcom for the early copy, here's how I took them on and how I hope you can too. This intro will be same for all of the Calamity Elder videos that I plan on making, so if you've heard this before, you can go ahead and skip onwards. These super bosses are spawned by fighting things at night. That's it. You can't beat things in the overworld, it has to be in the fight screen itself, but if you're over leveled enough you can still force the spawn by using the quick finish option. As long as you go through a loading screen, you are good to go. Which Elder spawns, however, is completely up to chance. It's all at random, not tied to the area you're in at all. You could be in the desert and get a cutscene of some bastard cutting about in the iced peaks about half a continent away, so expect to be resetting if you're targeting a certain fight. Anyways, onto the prep, and what you need to understand about the fights before taking them on. If you think you're all clued in, you can skip to the next timestamp for the individual fight in this video. If we're looking at the fights themselves, stamina will be a sacred resource. The Calamity Elders will frequently use typeless skills, that is to say moves that cannot be countered in the head-to-head wheel. Your weapon skills will be essential in mitigating the damage or outright avoiding this, so armor and genes that boost stamina will be your holy grail. Additionally, you'll want to pack the following items: surrogate gems, vital essences, mega rations and rations, plus any healing that you can. The surrogate gems allow you to avoid one attack, which should be saved for the one-shot AoEs that all of these beasts carry if you find yourself out of stamina. Vital essences are good if you make mistakes and have a free moment to restore your hearts, and the rations will allow you to restore your monstie if you really just need them to stop using second wind for a second. As for gear, my recommendation would be the Gosharag armor, sporting a very wide range of elemental defenses that little to none of the Calamity Elders inflict. Additionally, it comes innately with a health boost and a Wyvernfell boost, plus a bunch of decoration slots. It gets the seal of approval from me. Weapon wise, you want a gun lance and you want a hammer. You can see after your first encounter the elemental weaknesses of each dragon in the Monsterpedia, so make the strongest one of said element available to you, provided that they come with the skills I'll mention next. The reason for these weapon choices are the hammer's Backlash Blitz skill as well as Sweet Spot or Perfect Crush, and your gun lance must have the skill Daring Guard. The Backlash Blitz, much like the gun lance, can apply the guard condition to yourself, which severely mitigates damage and allows you to survive some AoEs, and in Hammer's case, can respond to a survived attack with a counter of its own. The guard condition gives a lovely damage reduction and should not be slept on. If you find yourself facing down a survivable AoE and have some stamina, pop one of these. Conversely, the gun lance skill will increase your guard proportional to an attack and will always leave you with 1 HP. You can use these for big AoEs, it's just a bit stamina heavy. And finally, the thing to remember is really you're going to be looking at draining the Wyvernfell gauge. Remember, these Calamity Elders are a marathon, not a sprint, so your favourite skill is going to be Sweet Spot or Perfect Crush on the hammer. I prefer Sweet Spot as it's a little less stamina intensive. On to the basics of the fights. The Calamity Elders will follow set patterns. Typically they'll open with a massive one-shot and shift between different states that prioritise each colour of the attack wheel, speed, power or tech. For these one-shots, I'd also recommend you make sure that Ratha gets his level 50 skill, Critical Eye, to preserve your hearts, as it will allow you a free dodge. They are largely scripted in terms of what moves they choose, but you can skip moves with clever usage of the Wyvernfell gauge and your own responses including kinship attacks. The fight will be checkpointed with each quarter of HP that you deplete, so if you lose, the Elder will have their health locked to that point next time after you repel them. You still get 1 material anyway, so you can make the weapons and armor after 3 losses, but if you want the lovely rewards of taking down an Elder in one go, that's what we're here for. Oh, and make sure you do the NPC sub-stories. Not only are they adorable and in some cases very sapphic, you unlock a new monstie for your companions. I personally recommend Cora and her second monstie, or Eleanor and her first. Right, got all that then? Brilliant. This will be the standard intro for all of the Calamity Elders going forward, so let's see which one we're taking on today. The Abyssal Dragon, Namielle. She is rearing her head for the second time after her introduction in Iceborne, and what a force of nature to see in the Twisted Reflection demo. Some resident crack smokers decided it would be a fantastic idea to take out this beast in the demo at a level cap of 10, and they succeeded. The indomitable human spirit is undefeated in the face of a typhoon, apparently. Nevertheless, we'll take a look at what makes this fight tick at a more reasonable level. Namielle is easily the second hardest of the lot, and that's due to her overabundance of AoEs during the initial first cycle of the fight. It's here where I'd say that your surrogate gem is going to be needed, and it's a good play if you're in the final area of the game. You want to have a look at getting yourself another Rathalos for the Critical Eye guaranteed dodge gene. Monsties regen stamina even when they aren't out, so having 2 spare slots to save a heart from this absurd opening few rounds will be an amazing secret weapon. Namielle, like Velkhana, is a 3-stage fight that goes from tech, to speed, to power. It's an odd thing to say that this final area secret boss is a warm-up for the first area's boss, but I guess this is how it all shook out. I suppose that the devs didn't want us to have too much of an easy time if we took on Namielle during the demo, and of course that all worked out brilliantly, didn't it? Namielle is turbo weak to fire, so your Glavenus hammer is going to be a good mainstay here. As usual, I recommend Korra with either of her monsties. Gravy is good for the additional fire damage, but is very weak to the water attacks of Namielle, so Golma will be doing some serious work on the Wyvernfell gauge instead. I also found a lot of success with Eleanor and Angie, but it's worth putting in a good word for our buddy Ogden, as Namielle has a hell of a weakness to poison, and those damage ticks do add up. The fight itself starts with the deadly AoE Glimmer Strike. You need to remember that name, as you'll be seeing it a lot throughout the fight. This is a lightning AoE that does a ridiculous amount of damage, but doesn't always guarantee a one-shot. Nevertheless, a Critical Eye and Backlash Blitz from your hammer will be a standard opening here. Later on, however, if you find yourself low on stamina, consider having a monstie like Thunderlord Zinogre or Astalos in the back to tank the lightning blow to preserve resources. After this AoE, Namielle will then switch to targeted attack, either being a single technical attack or a single target typeless move called Nami Shot. You'll see these interchangeably, so keep an eye on the colour of the thread between you and the Elder. Remember, yellow thread means that it's a coloured head-to-head, and a red thread means that it's a typeless head-to-head that you can't respond to. The targeted moves will happen twice, and then you're subjected to a powerful AoE water move called Nami Torrent. This is typeless and powerful. I cannot stress how important it is that you play as frugally as possible during the first cycle, because the horror with these AoEs is just beginning. After approximately 4 or so turns, Namielle will automatically shift to a new state known as Abyssal Charge, and powers themselves up with lightning. This new phase always begins with another Glimmer Strike. Ideally, you want to be saving your stamina and items for this phase of the fight, as you'll need a lot of options to be able to dodge this. Glimmer Strike as well, if interrupted via a stun, paralysis or kinship etc, will also be skipped, so if you have a full kinship gauge, it's advisable to slam one out if you've got it in the tank. In this mode, Namielle on paper does use speed attacks, but that's not the main threat here. You are once again on a timer for another deadly AoE. If you are unable to fully deplete all the Wyvernfell gauges, you'll be subjected to the Nami Blast, an unskippable massive AoE that does even more damage than Glimmer Strike and is likely to cost you your hearts. Not only that, but during this state Namielle can easily chain 2 water AoEs back to back, meaning that your resource pools such as items, stamina and health will be checked very hard here. This is where my recommendation to play as frugally as possible in the early stages bears its fruit, as this first cycle is the most punishing. Remember all of your items, remember your vital essences, and make sure you get through this. Of course, the other option is to play fast and loose, and using the Sweet Spot Hammer skill, score a topple in this state by fast depletion of the Wyvernfell gauge. Not only will you get that free turn for more damage or repositioning, remember to not use the Synchro Rush, but it also forces Namielle out of this dangerous Abyssal Charge mode. Breathe easy here, the hard part is done. Namielle enters a new dehydrated stage and will lose her weakness to fire. However, she will now only fire power attacks or single target moves for the duration, meaning that Korra's skill set to draw attention will keep you high and dry, pun absolutely intended. Plug away at the health bar and Wyvern Soul whilst you've got this breather, and after another 4 or so turns, Namielle resets back to the hydrated state. This is a good opportunity for you to preserve your stamina meter, going back into hell again. Now, once Namielle resets this cycle, things are a little bit different. Here, you do not get the Glimmer Strike that Nami started out the fight with. No, Nami will go straight to targeted typeless or tech moves approximately 3 times, then the water AoE into the Abyssal Charge. Abyssal Charge also loses the Glimmer Strike at the start, so you're well set up to chip away with head-to-heads and definitely encouraged to get a topple as soon as you're able to avoid the Nami Strike AoE. Glimmer Strike being removed twice over is a fantastic boon and will give you a much easier time this time around. You're still under pressure, however, as these cycles speed up when you get below 50% health, and here is where I'd recommend using the aforementioned 2 Monsty Crit Eye strategy. It's just a ripcord in case you find yourself on the end of a bad call. Basically dedicate 2 of your Monsty slots, Ratha and 1 other, to come in for a free evade if you find yourself in a bind or you're unsure what to call the next move as. From here, rinse and repeat. Namielle is tough and starts out strong and fast, but once you get that first topple, the tide swings in your favour. Another pun intended. It's here where I'd recommend also, after you've maybe cleared her by repelling, searching for the Stamina XL gene. This gene increases the amount of starting stamina on a Monsty, which will allow you to have more resources in the tank for the brutal first phase. It can be found in super rare dens for Monsties such as Plesioth and its subspecies, and also once you complete Namielle, she will become available in the first area. Again, massively increases starting stamina and is good for an off-type gene to get you up and at 'em on switching or at the start of the fight. No bones about it, Namielle is tough. She is a difficult fight and really pushes you to the wall in that first phase. You still have space, however, to overlevel your Monsties to make things a bit easier, but you have to still be on your toes and be as frugal as you can. That is the long and the short, however, of the Namielle fight. Do not bash yourself if you cannot get through this first time. The true clear takes some real patience and some real resource management, and sometimes you will just call a move wrong. This is where the challenge begins. Next, however, are the final Calamity Elders, and this is the hardest challenge in the game. But that's Namielle. I hope that gives you an idea of how the fight functions and the options available to you. This is where things start to ramp up, but let me know if you found an additional secret or if you've got an additional strategy that I haven't included here. Cheers folks, until next time.